evening, everyone. I welcome all of you in the gallery and welcome to our ex-mayor, Robbie Walsh, councillors and staff for this ordinary meeting of council today on the 17th of April 2023. The public is advised that it is council policy to record the proceedings of meetings of council on digital media to assist in the preparation of minutes and to ensure that a true and accurate account of debate and discussion of meetings is available. This audio recording is authorised by the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015. I would also like to acknowledge country. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomagina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Record of attendance. We have two apologies this evening, Deputy Mayor Salisa Edwards and Councillor Leanne Raw. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. There is a recommendation before you councillors that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Waratah Wynyard Council on the Monday the 20th of March 2023 be circulated and confirmed as a true and correct record. Could I have a mover for this motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Bramich. Are there any amendments to be made to these minutes, please? If there are no amendments, I ask the councillors to please say aye if they're in agreement. Aye. Carried unanimously. Confirmation of minutes of the previous special council meeting. There is a recommendation before you for confirmation of those special council meeting minutes. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Bramich. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Are there any corrections to these minutes? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Declarations of interest. Could I please have notification from any of you if you have a declaration of interest, and that includes the staff as well. No declarations of interest. Councillors' announcements and report. I have no announcements. There is a recommendation there that the council note my communications. So could I have a mover for this motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Bramich. Are there any questions regarding the communications? Councillor Roberts.
I just want to note that you're working very hard, Mayor Duniam. I see it, and you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. No questions? Okay, then I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 4.4 is notification of council workshops. There is a recommendation there that the council note the following workshops. Could I have a mover, please, for that motion? Councillor Hyland. Could I second? Councillor Johnson. Are there any comments or questions regarding this item? No, then I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Public questions and statements. 5.1, the responses to those questions. 5.1.1, Mr. Hutchison, Aldina Reserve. There is a question with the officer's response. Another question, 5.1.2, from Mr. Hutchison about the Aldina Reserve and the officer's response. A third question that Mr. Hutchison put, 5.1.3, with the officer's response. We now come to the public questions received in writing. We have not received any as such. So at 6:08 we will go into the public questions without notice. But before we do that, I need to read a statement to you. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with respect and integrity. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in their dealings with council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I remind everyone that Council's new council meeting procedures were adopted at the March council meeting. In particular, it should be noted that a maximum of 3 questions may be asked per person. Any parts to questions are considered questions, or questions to be asked before a response is provided. There is a time limit of 3 minutes per person to ask questions. Once a question is answered, there is to be no debate on that question. Public statements are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person. There is to be no questions or discussions related to the statement. I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy in their comments. Mr. Ewington, would you like to come forward, please? Your first cab off the rank.
Can you hear me all right, Madam Chairman?
Absolutely, thank you.
Very good. Before I make the statement, I'd like to thank the community for the establishment of the multi-disabled playgroup at Somerset. It's an amazing thing because people with a disability and families with disability members of the group can now go along and have a family gathering together, and it's amazing what you've done, or the community's done, the fairy godmothers and other members of the community. So it's been a nine years of development, and I give credit to all people concerned because that's another access and inclusion. Thank you. Statement, Madam Chairman. The council role with access, inclusion and safety in mind for the community. I'd like to start at York Street. York Street has now become the main entry point and exit point for the Wynyard Council by closure of the East English end of the western end of English Street. So what this involves is create a heavy population of traffic in that area of a morning, because that's a major stop point for school children to get off and on buses. I feel strongly that should be reduced to 40 kilometres with the flashing lights indicating a slower restriction, because there's high input of young people getting on and off buses, and there's a heavy flow of traffic in that area. And I feel that needs attending and something done about it, because at the moment parents are very concerned about the speed limit not being reduced and not highlighted enough how important it is, because it is a major stopping point. I'd like to move on to the West End supermarket construction car park. Interesting. Just before the entry point to Cotton Street, there's a section of concrete being lifted up, footpath. Now you know full well a footpath is a major point for access and inclusion. There's a section of concrete being lifted for several months now and hasn't been put down, which restricts people with limited mobilities and mobility scooters of not being able to have access to come to town. I can't see a reason why this has not been done with the completion of the car park. This, I feel, needs to be attended to. It's gone on long enough. Another point, young mums with prams. Where do they park? You know full well in many supermarket park and place in the communities, they provide parking spots for young mums with the prams. Has this one been developed, car park been developed with some facilities for them members? No, it hasn't. Another point, where are the tactiles? We have many mobility people with limited visual impact who have blind or semi-blind, partly blind, and now this day and age, many other councils provide tactile posts for them to assist, especially crossing the street and other intersections, but the Waratah Wynyard Council does not recognise this, which is another concerning matter. Another concerning matter with this complex is the entry point. Many members of the community find it hard when they come off English Street into that complex. There's people backing out as they enter. They feel they all should go through in the Cotton Street, I remember rightly, and go round that way and make that an exit only. Would make a better flow for all members of the public who use that facility. And thirdly, of course, the disabled parking spot, which is going to be attended to with some alterations there. But in general, I feel there's some tidy enough to be done with that complex. How we going, Madam Chairman? How many minutes got left?
Do you have some questions, Mr. Ewington?
Well, have we 3 minutes for a statement, haven't we, Madam Chairman?
I reckon that you've just about done that.
Yeah, pretty sharp. Now, question 1. In relation to cultivation of ragwort, which is a declared weed under the Tasmanian Weed Management Act 1999, being allowed to a farming community farmer being allowed to cultivate within the farming Flowerdale community. This weed has been reported on this property in January 2023, and now it's April, and the weed is still growing quite fluently in that area. We've had a good response from the community in general, but this situation in Gates's Road, Flowerdale, it's not happening, and I feel it's getting late now, and if we don't contain this weed, it will spread further. So the question is, why is this community farm allowed to cultivate a noxious weed? Question 2 is, can I have an update of the Bruce disability parking bay? I reported over 6 months about the safety issue of it. Please, can someone give me an update of when this will be relocated for me to be able to safely go and be part of that event? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewington.
Through you, Chair, I'll just comment very briefly on those matters, Mr. Ewington. In relation to the ragwort matter, obviously we won't discuss individual properties at the council meeting tonight, but I know you're aware of updates that are received from the state government bodies and council in relation to that property, and we'll continue to pursue actions where necessary. In relation to the disability parking bay at Bruce's, we certainly have indicated we'll make some changes to the layout of that parking bay. We are waiting just from the owners of Bruce's to get back to us around when's a preferred time for those works to occur. So once we receive that information, that work will be scheduled, but it is in train to occur.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Mrs. Schultz, would you like to come forward? And you have a statement. Do you have questions as well?
I think I do have a question. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I did send my statement around, and this has got to do with the Ballard Avenue block of land that the previous mayor put out a request for the residents to put in a submission whether or not they wanted to have
Mrs. Schultz, could you pull the microphone closer? Thank you.
Is that better? Okay. Anyway, I'd first like to acknowledge that Tomangina people, the original custodians of this land where we meet tonight, and pay respects to all First Nations people, past, present and future. So it's almost a year ago, and the previous Mayor Walsh, who, nice to see you here tonight, put forward a proposal for a dog and motorhome park off Ballard Avenue and asked for submissions. So immediately I sent my submission against this area and suggested that this area would be perfect to offset the loss of trees around Wynyard and also to strengthen the Inglis River riparian buffer zone that is presently fragmented and degraded. So the loss of trees, for instance, in Ballard Avenue, 10 trees have been cut down there. These were mature trees. Camp Creek Esplanade, 7 trees, plus many limbs of standing trees, some with hollows. Hog Street subdivision, where tons of soil has been dumped onto the floodplain and there was loss of trees there. Hale Street subdivision, removing old growth trees along the Big Creek riparian and the old Bass Highway subdivision next to the golf course, to name a few that I know of. The loss of these trees is shameful in the face of climate change and biodiversity conservation. To reiterate, my aim tonight is to highlight an opportunity for the Wynyard Council to strengthen this potential wildlife corridor adjacent to Ballard Avenue, outlined in the submission that you all should have received. The same submission that I put in 1 year ago to help offset this loss of trees. This is an easy action because you really don't have to do anything, and it adheres to your own ICEP plan. Anyway, in conclusion, I think it's really vitally important for the Council to keep their eyes open to serious climate change and biodiversity loss consequences. This can be achieved by adhering to laws pertaining to water quality, enhancing waterway riparian corridors, and to seriously consider not allowing subdivisions to be built on wetlands or flood-prone areas. This is an area that I have studied as during my PhD. So I guess my question would be, would Council really consider returning that block of land to help strengthen that area of Inglis River riparian? It also is very close to the York Street Reserve, so it would all link in very nicely and create a better corridor. That's it.
Thank you for that,
And thank you for listening, everyone.
Mr. GM.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you for the statement and questions, Ms. Schultz. Recall your previous submission from last year indicated, I guess, a number of alternatives for camping and dog exercise areas, and put forward some suggestions, and I can indicate Council are still working through, I guess, and exploring those alternate options. So there is yet to be, I guess, a final decision made on the Ballard Avenue property. We certainly were hopeful that that would have taken place by now, but there are some delays in getting the information we need to make the information, but to make the decision we need. But we are certainly exploring and working with the Show Society around the showgrounds around a possible dog exercise area there and possible camping there. So we are once we have information in relation to that particular site, Council can make some decisions around Ballard Avenue and where camping and or dog exercise parks may be constructed into the future.
I just wondered how many submissions were received and who were for that area and who was against that area, because I didn't receive any reply.
Through you, Mayor, I need to double check, but I suspect that a report was placed on the public agenda of Council, so that information should be publicly available as to the number of submissions.
I searched the website. I couldn't find anything relating to it.
We're happy to. We'll follow that up with you and get back to you.
Good on you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nichols. You have 2 questions for us this evening?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions. How's that better? Yeah, I've got 2 questions. One, I don't know whether I've missed the boat, but one is pertaining to a dog park too. So I'll go ahead with it. Dear Mayor and Councillors, it's come to my attention that as a dog owner, the municipality still has no enclosed dog run areas. I recently visited St Helens, where they have 3 dog off-lead areas. Each area is approximately ½ acre and has watering facilities and a 2-gate entrance, which enables people to unleash their dogs in safety. Wynyard area has plenty of council land, which is flat, easily maintained and virtually unused. I also noticed that the St Helens parks are well patronised and maintained. From what I've heard, there's been plenty of discussions where one could be established around Wynyard Township. But has any decision been made yet? That's one question. The other question is, when can the council see the way clear to produce at least one of these enclosed off-lead areas for the hundreds of dog owners in this area? That's my question.
Go ahead with your second question.
Second statement is, where are we? Right. Walkway opposite the beach, caravan park. Is everyone familiar with that? That's the one near the river. All right. This walkway needs urgently replacing or upgrading due to the following points. It is a very narrow width and not conducive to the amount of traffic or people that use it. Quite often someone will come up behind you in a bike and they don't even let you know they're there. They sort of yell out and you've got to get over for them and that sort of thing. In the winter, it frosts up, causing people to slip. One example is my wife did exactly that. Fortunately, she did not hurt herself. This walkway construction should be a priority, so I'm just wondering when and if it can be upgraded.
Thank you, Mr. GM.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll do the first question and then pass the second one on to the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services to respond. I've probably commented a little bit on the dog park already, but certainly Council does have allocation and funding in the current budget in this year to construct a dog exercise area. So as soon as the location is finalised and design's complete, construction can start very soon. So there's not a requirement to allocate further funds at this point in time. It's simply a matter of finalising the location, and as I touched on earlier, we're just waiting a little bit further information to come back before we can make the final decision on where that might be.
Okay. And the second question?
Through you, Mayor, that a tender was awarded for that pathway in the last calendar year. Construction is due to start in early June. The pathway is scoped to be widened as well as that reconstruction so that will be early June that will start.
Okay, with a suitable material?
Correct, with a slip resistant material. Yep.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much. That now brings us to item 6, Planning Authority items, and the time is 6:26. Public questions without notice. We have Lorna Dicker and Linda Craig, is that right? Lorna, would you like to come forward, please?
Okay, I think I'd rather stand up if I can. Can you hear me without that? Fine. Now, I've been a resident of Doctors Rock for some 58 years. In one way, I am the oldest person out there. Now, over the years, my house was supposed to have been the last one developed out there on septic tank. Since then, there have been 5 other houses built, and over the years I have watched them all have trouble with flooding the water. One house, when it was first built, a double-storey house along there, it looked like a house in a great big moat. The water was so deep, about that much all around the house. Even today, a house that's going up next door to me is having trouble having a septic tank put in because they have decided they've come across some of the toughest rock imaginable. It's been over 3 weeks that they've been trying to dig a hole to put this septic tank in. And now we get to know that there's going to be another 216, possibly 220 more buildings put along the old Doctor's Rocks Road. Now, I don't think the infrastructure in Wynyard is up to it. We're very short of nursing staff. We're very short of carers that work in the group homes. Quite often, they haven't got the staff to relieve them. They're doing double shifts when they're looking after 4 or 5 disabled people. They should not have to do that. We just don't have the infrastructure. Also, in the paper I have here, it states my second problem. Benefits to councillors and taxpayers. The development application clearly states the development, this is the one along opposite where the 2 houses are on the seaside, right opposite there. It says this land is based on land lease, not subdivision or strata. So this implies that the Wynyard Waratah Council will not be receiving rates from the individual houses. Yet I, along the road a bit further, have to pay both my land tax and house tax. So why are they getting away with not paying the ordinary council taxes? And I think that's all my queries.
Thank you, Mrs. Dickett.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Firstly, with regards to infrastructure, the development you're speaking to with regards to the lifestyle village is going to be connected to sewer, and so the concerns with regards to on-site services won't be an issue because it will be connected to the reticulated system. And then with regards to rates, there are many different types of ways people can develop property, but this proposal is to keep it as one property, and therefore the Valuer General will then reassess the value of that land with the improvements on it, and the rates will be based off that. So essentially it's up to the Valuer General to provide the value for that property, and then the rates generated from there. So it's not as though they won't be paying rates, it will just be a different way of calculating those rates.
So would there be much difference in what that way of handling the rates would be compared to what the normal council rates would be? Is it going to be much difference in the finances the council is going to receive?
No, I don't think so, but ultimately it's the Valuer General that sets the value of the land, and that's what rates are based upon. So we don't council doesn't have control over that aspect.
Thank you. Linda, I'm sorry, what was your surname? I couldn't quite read it.
Greg.
Greg, I'm sorry, I said Craig, but Greg, okay, thank you.
I've never been to a meeting before, so I wasn't sure of the... I just want to talk about, this is probably more personal about me, because I'm the neighbour next to Lorna with this septic system problem. I just want to know why, if they're having a septic system in this new subdivision and a pump house, why that offer wasn't placed onto me, because I have a new build, 6 months into my build, and I've had to, by the council regulations, put a environmental friendly septic system in that has blown out over 30,000 plus just for this system, and I have this massive rock bed, which, knowing there's rock bed over in that new subdivision too, is there any compensation, or is there anything that can... it's just been absolutely heartbreaking, this septic system, and then to find that my neighbours, the new subdivision, are going to have a septic system come through. Right. So that's my question.
Yeah, through you, mate. It's not a septic system. They're connecting up to the Tas water system.
Why was that offer not...
Well, they have to, because they're in general residential zone land. So any general residential zone property has to connect to Tas water.
But I would be
you would have the option
too.
but it would also be costing the developer a tidy sum in order to connect to the Taswater infrastructure, because they're at the very end of the system. So if you wanted to connect to Taswater, you would have to pay to connect to the nearest point, and that would be a lot more than $30,000. So you have the opportunity to
so they
provide that on
pay
site.
to their subdivision, and
Yes, they have to
at the
pay for their
developers,
connection for
yeah.
all of those
Yeah.
new dwellings that will be,
yeah,
should it be approved, be developed on that site. So they have to pay to get the waste to the nearest point, and I believe there's
Yeah.
also a few other points of infrastructure they need to put in, such as pump stations along the way, to get
Yeah.
it all the way back to the sewage treatment plant.
so that's all been approved for them to do.
Well, that's what
that?
we're considering tonight, but Taswater have provided conditions of approval
Yeah.
for that connection to be made.
Oh, okay then. Yep. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So before we move into 6.3, there is a recommendation before councillors. I remind councillors that discussion, debate on these 5 items must relate specifically to the planning scheme. So 6.3, we have before us a cafe, tasting bar and visitor accommodation, 7 units located at 472 Tollymore Road, Table Cape. There is a recommendation before the council. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts, could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Highland. Councillor Roberts, would you like to open the debate, please?
I just, it's actually a good point to follow on, because I'd like to address the gallery for a second and your questions. What a lot of people don't understand, and it can be eye-opening for many, is that as we sit up here, we don't just sit up here as the Waratah Wynyard Council. We also sit up here as representatives of the Tas Planning Authority. In terms of legislation, we have to follow the legislation to the letter of the law. If we're in breach of that ourselves, then we would be punished. So there's a reason why it might seem that we might not be open to certain things, but the reality is that legally we cannot. So if I actually, in relation to this at Table Cape, it's the same thing. The lifestyle at Table Cape is one of the drawing cards of our region. I understand the people that have lived there for many years and generations, and they feel very invested in the region and the area. But the reality is that they own the properties that they have purchased, and others also have the opportunity to purchase property. As you have the opportunity to connect to Taswater, so does others have the opportunity to connect to it. Every single person that does and follow these processes does spend a lot of money to follow these processes, so it's not ever particularly targeted at one individual. These rules are universal, therefore we have to hold that standard universally. If Ashley was doing the wrong thing in his job, he would...
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes,
we're
thank
way
you,
off
Councillor
track.
Highland. Yes, if you could go back to
Right,
the
to
content
Tollymore,
of
right,
the,
so in accordance, in relation to this matter for Tollymore, it's the same thing where there's expansion into a region where people have traditionally lived, and there are going to be side effects due to that. But under the legislation, it has met the criteria for which it can be approved, and therefore we have the obligation to approve it. So please don't ever feel like it's personal or that we don't want to see the best for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion, please? Are there any more speakers for the motion? Councillor Highland?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, this sort of development has been a long time coming to the northwest coast. I could go back in our early days, 20 odd years ago, in the early 2000, I was involved in a lot of tourism work on the northwest coast, along with when Cradle Coast Authority started. And one of our biggest obstacles, if you like to call it, was to try and get the majority of the incoming tourists from interstate to visit this far northwest corner. And at that stage we didn't really have too much to offer. So there's been a lot of work done over the past few years, and really Waratah Wynyard area is just starting to come to the fore. We've had the whisky joint put in up there, the development on the Table Cape, Jamie Jury project, I believe is underway. Numerous other things that are happening, and our own council is revitalising our sports facilities and yacht club. And another item on the agenda tonight is the Boat Harbour Surf Club. So it's really looking to become a really a good part of the Northwest Coast to have, and I think the statement was made way back when we did pass the one at Table Cape Lighthouse, the Jamie Jury one, that the Tollymore Road likens itself to the Great Ocean Road.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Yes, Councillor Roberts. Yes, Councillor Hyland, could you just bring it back to this particular item?
Thank you. Yeah, it was just a bit of history that we've missed out on tourist numbers for a lot of years, and we're finally starting to get something that people can come and visit. And obviously this tasting bar, visitor accommodation on Tollymore Road will be a great asset to us. So I don't see too many problems with it. There's 20, there's a cafe, a tasting bar, accommodation for people to go there and stay. The opening hours are 8:30 to 10 o'clock, I believe, 7 days a week. And that's really good service. But I don't see any problems with interfering with the neighbours. They've covered off on a huge number of issues. And I think there's 25 metre distance between both houses on each side of the development. And most people will know where we are. It's right on the face of the other end of the Cape. So it's in a beautiful spot. I believe they're talking about walking tracks, which will probably end up connecting to the tulip farm, but that'll be another application, I believe, with the walking tracks, because it'll be going through other land. But it's really a good application, and I'd ask councillors to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers for this or against this motion? Councillor Bramage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to speak against for the motion. I can get through with no one pointing order me, so that'll be all right. We'll see how we go.
See how you go.
No, look, I haven't got too much more to add than what the speakers have been on about, but this is quite exciting for our town and region to have something like this. Yes, not everyone agrees. We understand that, but that's the world we live in, and we're here to make these decisions, and I quite support the decision that's about to be made, hopefully. Thank you.
Councillor Johnston.
I'm on. Short and sweet. Yeah, I'd like to show support to this also wonderful project that's going to happen. We talk about tourism and everything like that, and we want to, as our little township, want to bring more people in and accommodate more people. We're probably lacking our accommodation with our tourist, e.g. caravan parks and all that sort of thing. So the point of difference that we need, and I can assure you this is going to be the point of difference that the tourists will come to. So I do support this openly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Courtney.
Yeah, I just acknowledge that I do feel sorry for the representations, the people that have put a representation in, especially over the increase of traffic and business that's going to happen up there. But as Councillor Roberts has noted, we went over 900 pages in planning, this weekend, and obviously we get this on a Wednesday. 900 pages was a lot to absorb this weekend, but a lot of it was over the two major developments. and everything that I read that had been raised by the representatives was suitably addressed by our planning officers. So while I do feel for the representatives, I think that we have to approve the project.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. As there have been no discussion or comments against this particular motion, I'm going to ask councillors to raise their hands if they are in support of this motion. So all those in favour, could you please raise your hand? Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself are all in favour. Passed unanimously. .4, we move on to the redevelopment of Boat Harbour Beach foreshore, the new cafe, etc. There is a recommendation before the council. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Courtney, would you please open the debate?
No, again, I've read the over 900 pages this weekend. Again, I couldn't see anything where the planning officers had raised anything against the objectives that, you know, there was cause for us to not go against the planning recommendation. I would like to just do a quick shout out to the paper of the Boat Harbour Beach Surf Club for the amount that they've put into this development, this project. So good job to the people of the Surf Club and all the work they've put into this. It's a long time coming. So I think that we should approve it. As I say, I can't see any legislative reason to go against the planning officers.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Roberts.
This is another good opportunity, a segue into this. I want to give huge credit to Councillor Kevin Hyland, all the councillors that were on the council before I was here, and especially Mayor Robbie Walsh for their hard work for the development of Boat Harbour Beach. I've seen the plans as Councillor Hyland and myself have this in our portfolio, and to be honest, the work that has been done in this is incredible. The stakeholders are very, very happy. I did read the representation, and it's obviously it's passed. So I also want to credit Gary Neal, council employee. He has done an absolute mountain of work on this. So I want to thank the staff and the councillors before me that have done this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers for or against this motion? Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, just briefly, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to pass on thanks to the representative number 1 for his positive feedback and the couple of suggestions that he put forward in regard to plantings and artwork, and I hope that the council staff will take that on board and pass it on for the future and support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers? It seems that we have no speakers against the motion, so I'd like you to raise your hands if you're in favour of this motion. Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself, and the motion is passed unanimously. 6.5, the Lifestyle Village, 216 dwellings, clubhouse, precinct, etc. The motion before you. Could I have a mover of this particular motion, please?
Yes, so moved, Madam Chair.
Councillor Hyland moved. Could I have a second? Councillor Bramich. Councillor Hyland, would you like to open the debate, please?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Well, a lifestyle village and a very new concept for the West Coast. Something that not too many people, I think, on the coast would have come across. And given the mainland, I know for Brisbane, there a lot of those subdivisions, they make them, big fence around them, and they're very secure. It's been a thing that's been happening up there for a while. And it couldn't have come at a better time, given the housing crisis that we do have in the state, and the fact that it's just low-cost housing, and mainly pointed at the over 55s, which will be, I think, will be a good thing. I'm a little bit older, but they might let me in. See how we go. But look, and I did pick up on one of the representations, and if I just talk to that just a little bit, and that was the community and health. where they were very concerned, and even one of the speakers here tonight. But the 400 plus residents of that village, and I think realistically they're not all going to arrive to become residents at the end of 2023. It's going to be a progression, and we're all aware that we do have issues like doctor's surgeries. You can't get an appointment, everything's full, but the state government's working on a lot of that and has been for a long time, with quite a lot of other things, like the council working on our water, sewage, garbage collections. Everything just takes time, and it usually pans out pretty well at the end. But it's certainly a good concept. I hope it gets up tonight, and I'd like to see it progress and start reasonably quickly, because we certainly are in need of it. I'll be supporting it. I hope everyone else does as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Bramage.
Thank you. Yeah, I certainly will be supporting it. Wow, lifestyle village, eh? How lucky are we? How lucky are we to have something like this in our municipality and region? Heard a few people with objections tonight. When this gets up and going, the sewage gets out there, it'll make it that much easier for the people at Doctors Rocks to get hooked to the sewage. It'll be that much easier for them. We heard about not enough doctors and nurses. Well, something like this will encourage doctors and nurses as we grow, I would think. With local government reform upon us, who knows what they're going to take off us and put on us? And if we've got something like this in our backyard, whoopee-doo, eh? Wicked. I really congratulate the developer having faith in us to spend his money here. So, look, I just encourage councillors to support this. This is a one-off thing. We'll probably never ever get anything like this ever again, so let's make the most of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Councillor Roberts.
Just in relation to this, I want to credit Councillor Hyland and Councillor Bramage and yourself, Mayor Dunningham, and former Mayor Mr Walsh. You guys have steered our community into this direction. Your leadership has shown outside investment that this is the place to develop. As I've said, I feel for people that have perhaps lived in a place for such a time that they feel a sense of ownership, perhaps not just of their property but of the land around it. But I'm with Councillor Bramage and I'm with Councillor Hyland on this completely. This is an amazing development. This is a wonderful development. This is going to provide opportunity for people that want to live in our wonderful region to live here. We do have an aging population, and it's going to provide opportunity for homes for them. I think that, again, the leadership our council has provided over the journey has actually created an environment that people want to be a part of. And to me, as much as I feel for things about Table Cape, Doctors Rocks here, I do see the progression as a good thing. I've worked in community development. Councillor Bramage is absolutely right. This has the amount of jobs this has the potential to create, as well as homes, is exponential. The amount of financial flow-on effect that it has for our region is exponential. 216 units all on one block is an absolute boon for our region. And for anyone such as Linda that has questions about the rates, Ashley's absolutely correct. It will be a percentage of the value of the property, and 216 houses on units on one property makes it pretty valuable, so it's a good thing for our council too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Johnson.
I too am going to support this development. I just think it's an absolute fantastic idea. It's just it's going to work hand in hand with, e.g. our housing problem that we have. Your normal residential person will be moving onset to a lifestyle village, which is fantastic, which will free up a housing residential spot, which will free up either a homeowner or another renter to come into the situation. But people are going to be, say, once they get here, hear of this, people are going to just congregate around our wonderful region we've got, e.g. the flatness, where we can travel from, we'll say Seabrook into town, all flat, no uphills, downhills. You know, we're known as a little gopher town. I can guarantee the gophers will be out in full force trying to get into this village, and it's not going to be just Wynyard people getting into this village. It will be it'll be people from right around Tasmania, because I think Tasmania need more of these lifestyle villages to occur. So fully support it.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Courtney, do you have a comment to make?
No, I just want to quickly acknowledge again the representative and what they brought up. Yes, we do not have enough carers. Yes, we do not have enough healthcare. Yes, we probably do not have enough car parks. Irrelevant whether it's good for economy for our area, irrelevant whether it's going to help with the housing crisis. This is about whether it meets the planning legislation. I've gone through the planning legislation. I couldn't see anything where it would, you know, we need to look at it as discretionary. I can't see anywhere where the representatives have put anything forward that we haven't addressed from the planning side. So I don't think we've got any choice but to approve it, regardless of whether it's positive or negative.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. And I will add one small comment. It's not just people from Wynyard that are interested. I know that there are several from Somerset that would ride their gophers over to a... No, I don't have a gopher. You might as well understand that. No, I don't have a gopher. As there are no speakers against the motion, I'd like to put the motion. If we could go by a show of hands again, please. Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself passed unanimously. 6.6 is the upgrade of sports field, installation of training lights and outbuilding demolition located at 30 Church Street, Wynyard. We have a recommendation before us. Could I have a mover, Councillor Hyland?
Yeah, moved as per the most. Yeah, as per.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland.
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Hyland, would you like to open the debate, please?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. It's just briefly. It's just the ongoing work that we're doing with our sporting precinct, and it's the stage over at the high school. In regard to another footy field, lights and some infrastructure to go around the ground, so it'll alleviate a lot of pressure off the main oval for us, especially during the winter. And probably a plus for this over there, it's right on the doorstep of the Wynyard High School students, so they're going to have some top-notch facilities at their disposal right on their back door, so it'll be value for everybody. So I'd ask the councillors to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers to this motion? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor Dunham. I just want to speak on this one because it's a part of the portfolio that Councillor Johnston and I hold. I really want to give credit to both the Wynyard Football Club and the Wynyard Cricket Club for all their hard work with this one. Their ideas are exceptional, their committee group's exceptional. People such as Kent Jackson, Greg Sharman, Paul McCormick, Adrian Dixon, Paul Harding from Wynyard High School. It's actually really showing the way forward. The Minister for Sport has talked about this as the potential of sport in recreation in our state, and we're actually really leading the way on it. I also want to credit Rebecca Billing, who's currently on leave for maternity, and Stephanie Hansen, our recreation officers, for their work they've done consulting on this project. And I really want to thank Gary Neal from Council for his hard work on this one as well. These DAs we have in tonight, the costings would run into the tens of millions, which shows the absolute amount of investment that's happening in our region at the moment. You can't build any kind of house without a solid foundation, and again I want to credit the councillors before me for their hard work in actually bringing things like this to fruition, because they're going to take our community forward through the generations. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Johnson.
I'd just like to second Councillor Roberts' words there. Bit of a passion of ours, I suppose, when we first got, elected to the little committee group, and a wonderful committee group, a strong working committee group it is, and things just look to get stronger every meeting that we're having. As I say, once we've broken into the school, as Councillor Hyland said, and working together as a stronger number, yeah, things are looking good for this little town. So yeah, I will support that fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Are there any further speakers to this motion? There are no speakers against the motion. I put the motion and I ask that councillors raise their hands. Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. Passed you. Pardon me. 6.7 retaining wall, pergola, deck and water tanks located at 7 Heppels Road, Boat Harbour. There's a recommendation before you. Could I have a mover for the motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts moved. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded, Madam Chair.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Roberts, would you like to open the debate, please?
Just literally that Boat Harbour seems to be progressing very well. It's an amazing place, and I can understand why people would want to develop or extend or build down there. So I just want to say, it's the place to be.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers to this motion, for or against? Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, just a couple of things. The fact that it's just the approval for a retaining wall, pergola, deck and a couple of water tanks on Heppels Road, and I think it's just straightforward, and all the approval processes have met the requirements, so just a little bit interesting with the representation. I thought the adjoining block, which I do believe a lot of earthworks were carried out there with no permit, but anyway, I'll leave you to judge that.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers? If there are no further speakers, I'm going to put the motion and ask that the councillors raise their hand for this motion. Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself, carried unanimously. And we have finished right on 7 for the planning part of the meeting. Point 7, matters raised by councillors. There are responses to questions posed by councillors. Thank you, our planning staff, for your assistance this evening. Councillor Hyland, beautification of town entrance, and there is a response there for you. And Councillor Johnson, Main Street building facades, there is a response. Councillor Raw, who is not here, there are some details of complaints, and so we will move on to 7.2, councillors' questions received in writing. There have been nil. Councillors' questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice this evening, please? Councillor Hyland.
Yes, I do have one directed to our engineering department. Would it be possible, as a matter of urgency, to have some discussions with the State Road in regard to the intersection of the Old Bass Highway out at Doctors Rocks? There's another incident today which I was following. As you go up the hill, you lose sight of where the highway is, and most people are taking a left turn and heading down. Now 3 cars, the first car headed down towards the dead end, 2 more followed. The first car just suddenly realised that he was on the wrong track, hit the brakes, and the other 2, well, they all stopped. And this is a very continuing saga. It needs some attention as soon as we can.
Yep, through you, Mayor, absolutely we can raise that.
Thank you, Mr Summers. Are there any other questions without notice? Councillor Bramage.
Thank you. I guess to the engineering department, I guess while we're raising that too, I know I nag on about this a bit, is get on to state growth again about our two roundabouts. It's quite a few months ago they indicated that they would work with us probably. But I wouldn't like to think too much more time would go past, and they don't, because the one at Mount X roundabout is a blooming disgrace to anybody, and if they could give us a few dollars to keep it tidy, well and good. And the Calder roundabout, well, if they could pay us to mow it, well, it would look better. And even if they could pay me to mow it, it'd be better. So, look, I think we've got to put our foot down a bit, and if they don't want to pay us, let them do it themselves and do it properly and neat. Because they're entrances to our town, and they touch on what Councillor Holland said about beautification to entrances. So I think we should put the pressure on them a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Mr Summers, did you have a comment for that?
Yeah, look, can certainly raise all three locations along the Bass Highway there talked about by Councillor Bramage and Councillor Hyland. So.
Thank you, Mr Summers. Councillor Courtney.
I'm glad that Councillor Hyland brought that up, because that was my question without notice tonight too. I head out there every morning on the way to work, and I don't think there's been a morning that I haven't seen somebody turn left that meant to go on the highway. And I've seen two that have bumped into the car in front of me, that obviously I do my 3-car length so I'm safe. So that's a major concern that I've noticed on my way to work, and I would have asked the same question. But also, since we're going to go to state growth over it, can we get clarification on what the hell the speed limits are out there? Because I noticed that they keep kicking over the 60 sign. I go through there at 80. If the 60 sign's there, I obey it. If it's not, I don't. And I'm getting passed by people doing 100. So I'd just like to know what's going on with the speed limit out there while we're looking at the turn of that road being dangerous.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Mr Summers.
Yeah, the same. Certainly raised that one. I've observed that myself. You turn into suddenly a 60 zone with 80 either side of it. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Roberts.
I've actually got a few questions, Mayor Duniam. Naturally.
3 minutes, I'll give you.
All right, thank you. For each question?
No.
All right, so first question, my apologies. I should have been putting this in writing. I did mention this to you privately. The first question is a sports precinct subcommittee for funding and grants. Myself and Michael Johnston, Councillor Johnston, have been in discussion with the members of that committee proper, and there are members of our community that are willing to get involved with.
Right. What's your question?
The question is, and I should have put this in writing, is can we form that subcommittee officially recognised by council?
We will take that question on notice. Question 2?
All right, question 2 is tree net at the skate park. There have been members of the public that are asking about the oak tree at the skate park. Potential, as we've seen, people have different viewpoints on things. Some would like it cut down, some would not like it cut down. A really effective solution, as mentioned by the public, is just to put a tree net around it so that all the acorns and such don't fall into the park itself, because they degrade and become dangerous.
So your question is for
council to please, if they can, place a tree net around the tree that overarches on the skate park at Wynyard.
Thank you.
Okay. Another one, 964 pages for our agenda. Wondered if council has looked into the possibility of converting the agendas to audiobook, so that our councillors and staff can listen to it, and obviously whilst working or doing other things.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Mr GM.
Thank you, Mayor. We haven't progressed anything in that space, but there are tools available where that can be undertaken, so we can explore that further.
Sounds like a good podcast. Your next question, please, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor Dunniam. I actually had someone ask me a question about the boat ramp at the yacht club. They asked me, could council look into the possibility of perhaps extending it by about 3 metres into the river? Because apparently, with our region thriving so much, there's actually been people from St Helens, the East Coast, coming to Wynyard to fish, to catch some of the bluefin tuna that have been running around in our waters, swimming, and they can't actually get their boats in at Wynyard. So they're having to go back to Burnie and launch them in Burnie and then pilot them to Table Cape. Fishery is obviously a massive, massive tourism thing in Tasmania, and now we have game fish here. It would make sense to me, at least, to encourage tourists to come here and catch them.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Mr. GM.
Through you, Mayor, certainly it's not something that a subject area that I'm sufficiently qualified to provide advice tonight, but I guess we'll have to give an undertaking to explore further the points that you raised, Councillor Roberts. I'd imagine it would be quite an undertaking to do that work, and it would be a significant capital job, so we'd need to explore and work that up. Yeah, true. Yeah, including consultation with MAST and relevant authorities and so forth. So there'd be quite a process to work that through.
Thank you, Mr. GM and Mr. Summers. Are there any more questions, please? Councillor Johnson.
I did have two, but I only have one now because Councillor Hyland asked my first one. So, yeah, thanks, Kev, for that. The other one was, and going back probably a couple of months ago, where our motorcycle friend came in and asked for about car parking. I think we have enough car parking. It's just, and I'd like to see more, or say probably a better signage to say where our car park is. And if you start from the bottom roundabout, there is no sign from there until you get to the middle roundabout, which is saying car park, and it's on your right-hand side, but it's the third sign down in very small writing, and when you're approaching that roundabout, you're looking forward, not looking to the side, to say there's a car park on your right to go down there. And if you do turn down there, there is another small sign to say that there is a car park on your right. So I really think, my question is that we do need better signage in better areas to state that we've got a car park behind, because there is ample car park area for motorcycles to park there. I think we address our signage, we'll get it right.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Mr. GM, we take that one on notice? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions, notices of motion, we had none received. 9.9, reports of officers and committees, settlement strategy implementation plan. There's a recommendation before councillors, and there are two parts to that recommendation. Could I have a mover for that particular recommendation, please?
Yeah, so moved.
Councillor Hyland, sorry. Seconder, please.
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Hyland, do you wish to speak to this motion?
No, nothing really to add. It's just another tool along with our planning scheme, how we've set out our settlements, e.g. Yolla, where else have we got? Sisters Beach, all that sort of thing. It's it's pretty involved, but and we've worked through it for 12 months or better, and it'll be an advantage.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers to this motion? Councillor Roberts.
Look, again, to follow on what Councillor Hyland has said, there's a paragraph in here that says the strategy sets out interconnected recommendations that will enable council to protect and enhance these qualities and leverage off them to make our towns and villages even more sustainable, inclusive, inspiring and nurturing places to live, work and visit. I'd like the public to recognise after this meeting tonight, especially with the DAs and the progression, that it's actually a relevant policy and it's coming to fruition. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. If there are no further speakers for or against, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.2 is the financial management strategy. There is a recommendation before you. Could I have a mover for that particular motion? Councillor Roberts.
So moved.
Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Courtney. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I've said it over and over again, but again, in recognition of the councillors and the staff, our council does a wonderful job looking after the funds, and the reports prove it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers, please? If there are no further speakers for this motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.3, report of the Auditor General, strategic procurement in local government. There is a recommendation before you. Could I have a mover for that motion?
So
Councillor
moved.
Roberts, could I have a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Hyland, Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to this motion?
I do. I just actually want to credit Councillor Raw for her work with the audit panel. I actually really enjoyed her presentation that she presented to us of what's been happening up there, and genuinely she has done an incredible job and she's the right person for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers to this motion? If there are no further speakers, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.4, award of contract 797 for Wynyard Waste Transfer Station Site Management Services. There is a recommendation there. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
Yeah, I'll move.
Councillor Bramage, could I have a seconder, please? Was that you, Councillor Johnson? Thank you. Councillor Bramage, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Not too much. This is quite interesting, actually, and hopefully there might be some changes up there. I guess the potential's there to have a tip shop, all that sort of thing. So fingers crossed that they make a good go of it.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Are there any further speakers to this motion? Councillor Roberts.
I just want to note here for the public, there was actually three groups that applied for it. We would have followed a thorough vetting process and awarded it to the one we found most deserving, but also that it's for an initial of 3-year period with an extension of for another up to 4 years. So this will be reviewed and hopefully it will be a success, as Councillor Bramage says.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers to this motion? If there are no further speakers to the motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.5, the Quarterly Information Report, Community and Engagement. There is a recommendation before you. Could I have a mover for that motion, please, or that recommendation? Councillor Bramage, could I have a seconder?
Yeah, second.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Bramage, do you wish to speak to this motion?
It's all covered very well in here, and I don't think I can add too much more to it.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Any other speakers to this motion? If there are no further speakers, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 9.6, the annual plan update. There is a recommendation before you. Could I have a mover for this particular motion, please? Councillor Courtney, could I have a seconder? Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, do you wish to speak to this motion? You don't. Are there any other speakers to this motion? If there are no speakers to this motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.7, the financial report for the period ended 31st of March 2023. The recommendation there is to note the financial report for that period ending the 31st of March. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney, could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Courtney, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I don't need to speak to the motion, but I will thank our General Manager for keeping us in the black. A lot of councils I know across Tasmania have struggled through COVID and through cost increase since COVID, and it's exceptional that our General Manager has kept us and our Finance Department have kept us in the black during this period, and that we're still in the black, so good job.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. I think that we all agree with your sentiments. Councillor Roberts.
I would like to echo that sentiment about our General Manager and our Finance Department, and I also want to give great credit to our former Director, Sam Searle, who has unfortunately left us. She has done an amazing job here, and I would like to thank her on behalf of everyone for her contributions.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers to this motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.8, the Senior Management Report.
So moved.
Councillor Courtney, could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Courtney, do you wish to speak to this motion?
I have a question. I'll just really quickly, I note in that particular report we acknowledge that old Spud Whiteley's retired after 47 years, so thanks very much, Shane, for nearly 50 years of service to council. Top job, mate. But I've got a question. I noticed that on the first item there, it's that you've enjoyed, joined in participation of relevant meetings relating to development of council's digital transformation strategy. I'm just going to ask what that's generally relative to. Is that relative to what we're doing in the digital space, or does that also include cybersecurity? Because I've noted that in the last month I've been notified as a parent, as a health worker and as a counsellor that my details have been breached. So I don't feel like as a state we're doing real well on this. Is this what we're now discussing in these workshops?
Through you, Mayor, I'd call them two separate discussions. If you like, we have our digital transformation strategy which we're progressing. So we have regular meetings, ourselves, Circular Head, who are involved in this project as well, and the consulting team that are working with us through this process. So we have, as I said, regular meetings to ensure that is on track and to make sure that things are progressing as they should. So there's a whole body of work, and it's a terrific project coming together very well. The secondary part of your question there around cybersecurity is that we periodically undertake, I'd call them internal audits for want of a better phrase, in relation to cybersecurity. We last had one a year or two ago. We are going through an update of that now. So we are going through another internal audit in relation to cybersecurity now. So we are ensuring that our processes, our controls, our security is up to speed and intact, and we're certainly working through that. We haven't finalised that process yet, but it is underway, the second of our major cybersecurity internal audits.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. I do note that the only breach that I've noted of this council was when we were under Burnie City Council software management, so I think we're doing a good job.
Thank you, Mr. GM and Councillor Courtney. That was a valid question and probably one that we have all been wondering about. Are there any further comments, please, or questions?
Of course, Mayor Dunham. I also want to really, congratulate Shane Spud Whiteley for his 47 years service at our council. I note that the farewell event was held to recognise his contribution, and I really appreciate that from the senior management because it's important. Our workers are important to us, and someone like Shane in 47 years has given much to this community, and he deserves his recognition. The question I have in regards to this in corporate is in regards to our communications and media. How are we progressing in our replacement of the amazing Anna Halapilius?
Through you, Mayor, the simplest response is to say the position remains vacant. We have undertaken extensive recruitment practices to try and fill the role. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to, so we'll continue to explore options available. So you will have noticed there certainly has been an increased level of service in that space. Certainly social media, media releases, all of those aspects we have wound back to a manageable level. We are sharing that load internally, and it won't be until we can fill that role that we can return to what we would like to deliver in that space. But unfortunately, we're still working on filling that role.
Thank you, Mr. GM.
I would, to the public, I'd highly recommend and encourage that if anyone has relevant qualifications or interest in this field, please apply for that job. Thank you.
Thank you for that promotion, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Courtney, you are... No, you're not. All right. Are there any further comments or questions regarding this motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.9 minutes of other bodies.
So moved.
Councillor Courtney, could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Johnson. Councillor Courtney, do you wish to speak to this motion?
I just really like the councillors to support the recommendations there tonight, because the group, the CAP group, as you know, are a community group. So the people that have put these ideas forward are members of our community. They are some of, honestly, the smartest people that I've met. And the recommendations put forward, I hope, are supported by my fellow councillors, because they were pretty proud of these ideas, and I think that they've got merit.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further comments? No further comments. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. So that was 9.9.1. 9.9.2 is minutes of other bodies. The Audit Panel Committee meeting held on the 28th of March 2023. The recommendation is to note that report. So could I have a mover, please? Councillor Bramage. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Courtney. Councillor Bramage, do you wish to speak to this motion?
No, I don't need to speak to it, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. If there are no further speakers to this motion, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Item 10, matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting. There is a recommendation that the Council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in a closed meeting. Could I have a mover for this particular motion, please?
So moved.
Sorry, who moved? Councillor Courtney. Councillor Courtney moved, seconded Councillor Roberts. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Closure of meeting to the public, that the Council resolves by an absolute majority to go into the closed meeting to consider the following matters. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts, Councillor Bramage, seconded. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously, and we close the meeting at 7:26, and we will go into our closed meetings. Please turn off your mic.